game. Where's Johnny?
You're gonna need a big approach.
Why so serious?
Roll out.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Hello there, and welcome to the In Session Film Podcast and this podcast review for October 24th, 2025. I'm Megan Kearns, and I'm here with Shaurya Chala. Hi.
Hey, Megan, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining me. Brendan and JD couldn't make it, so we're filling in, and we're going to be talking about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. And this is, of course, about Bruce Springsteen, and it's sort of a music biopic. It's kind of an unconventional biopic. We'll get into more of that. It's directed and written by Scott Cooper. It is adapted from the book Deliver Me From Nowhere by Warren Zanes. And it stars Jeremy Allen White as Bruce Springsteen, as well as Jeremy Strong, Paul Walter Hauser, Odessa Young, Stephen Graham, and Gabby Hoffman. And this had its world premiere at the Telluride Film Fest this year, opened in theaters today, and it has a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes out of 127 reviews, a 3.3 star rating on Letterboxd. And let me give you the synopsis before we dive in. This is the synopsis from the 20th Century Press release. So, Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere chronicles the making of Bruce Springsteen's 1982 Nebraska album when he was a young musician on the cusp of global superstardom, struggling to reconcile the pressures of success with the ghosts of his past. Recorded on a 4-track recorder in Springsteen's New Jersey bedroom, the album marked a pivotal time in his life and is considered one of his most enduring works. A raw, haunted, acoustic record populated by lost souls searching for a reason to believe. It's a very poetic description of this film. So, yeah, it's a very mostly self-contained film in that we are coming right off of his sold-out tour, and he is writing at a rented home in New Jersey, and he ends up recording. But we're also seeing glimpses of his relationship with his manager, as well as a burgeoning romantic relationship. And we also get flashbacks of himself as a child with his parents and specifically his fraught relationship with his father. So we'll dive into more of the film as we go along. But I want to know, what did you think of this?
So overall, I thought it was a pretty decent watch. I was actually listening to some of the ratings that you just mentioned right now. I think it's slightly low in a couple of places, but I did quite like it. Like, as a Springsteen fan, like, I grew up with so much of his music, thanks to my family, and some of the stuff that I would constantly listen to because of their 70s and 80s music collections. And it was yes, and there were moments in this where I thought they really captured some stuff. I do have some complaints with it, but we'll talk more about that as we continue on with this discussion. But overall, not too bad.
All right. Yeah, I feel kind of similarly to you. I liked it overall. I felt the entire time I was watching it, I kind of had this lump in my throat and kind of like on the verge of tears. And then I eventually did cry. I cry very easily at films, but I will say I think that's a very big testament to the acting abilities, which Jeremy Allen White I'm a huge fan of, and I think he is really exceptional here. And so I think I liked this so much because of his performance, but I think it's a solid film. I think it's solidly shot, it's decently written, and I tend to I know it's not a conventional biopic, but I like that. I like unconventional biopics that aren't, we're going to start with this person when they're born and, very David Copperfield-esque, and then we're going to go along their whole life, every detail. So, yeah, so I liked this as well. I'm with you in that camp. I'm a little surprised at the low scores. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe because Bruce Springsteen is such an icon, but still slightly surprised. And I was going to ask if you're a fan of his music, but you said you are. So do you want to share any more about that, or like what albums you love or anything like that?
Well, I mean, this is, of course, this movie we're looking at Nebraska, how that came to be, which is a great album. But I was thinking about this because when I was when I was growing up, I don't think we ever had a specific album. So really where it started is my mom and dad had this like a big collection of music that was like,
Okay.
which was, a bunch of different stuff by artists. And I remember we had this box set of
Hmm.
Springsteen's music, which was like 6 discs, I think, of just his greatest hits and stuff like that, which still feels like it's not enough,
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember we bought this at a music store. I think it's been like, it's a couple of decades now, and I remember we would be listening to that, and so that's what I grew up listening to, a lot of like an assortment of his music, and
Hmm.
then eventually when I started to get, expand my own music tastes as well, built off of that, I started listening to a lot more Springsteen. And I mean, look, he is the boss for a reason, I mean, it's like, hey, he's one of the greatest of all time, and his music is really, really is really wonderful. So going into the movie, obviously I was very excited to see it because, I having seen a lot of that and heard a lot of that, it's like I want to see how they're going to capture that on screen. And yep, I think we'll talk more about this as well. But I thought Jeremy Allen White did a really terrific job in the movie.
I agree. I think I said Jeremy Allen Strong. I'm merging their names together. But yes, I agree. Jeremy Allen White was excellent.
Yes, he was. He was.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that you're a big fan because
Mhm.
I really like Bruce Springsteen, but I am not a huge fan of his work. Like, I think he is an exceptional musician. I think he is a masterful songwriter, an incredible performer. I also grew up listening to his music. My mother had played Born in the USA a lot, had that
Mhm.
album. So that
Yeah.
was my introduction to him. And as throughout the years, as I've gotten older and discovered more of his music, like I was so familiar with the pop music, the hits that were huge, and not more of the kind of folk bluegrass style, like roots kind of music like Nebraska. And
Mhm.
listening to it, I'm like, this is fantastic. This is
Mhm.
incredible. But I can see at that time how radical it was and how different because,
Mhm.
it's harkening back to like the 60s and the folk music of those days. But then, of course, there's so much folk music and folk incorporated into music, today. And so it really feels like it exists timelessly, but also outside of its time. Like, it's kind of
Mhm.
wild to think that it was created in the early 80s.
Mhm.
But yeah, but he's an exceptional artist, and I can see why people absolutely adore him because he's phenomenal. So
Mhm. In fact,
yeah.
it's funny thing about today. Side note: the new expanded version of Nebraska dropped today, along with
Hmm.
the movie.
Yep.
So just a good chance to listen to that. I was actually waiting on that one because I was curious what was going to be expanded over there. But if you watch the movie, I think there's a little hint of what
Hmm.
might be on that. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there.
No, I think that's great. Absolutely. Thank you. Love that you share that. So, we've been talking about the performances. We've been kind of circling around Jeremy Allen White's performance. Let's talk about it. Let's dig into it. Talk more about what you liked about his performance as well as the rest of the cast.
Well, I mean, so something he mentioned in an interview, which immediately, I caught on to when the movie started as well, is that he said that, sometimes performing the songs is interesting because there are some songs and say, things you perform where it's not singing, where if people don't realize it, Bruce is actually screaming it,
Yeah.
And I remember he specifically said that about Born in the USA, which going back for a second, great album. I should have added that to my list. But the but I remember he mentioned that. I said, yeah, you're right because it's not a low kind of song. You start off you know, and I thought he brought that physicality and that the power of that voice. I think he brought that in the performances really well. Like the movie, very early on, you see "Born to Run" being performed, which is one of the great songs of all time, and it's you're seeing that physicality, the exertion that's coming from that, and really bringing that energy to the performance. I thought he did a great job with
Hmm.
that. But I also think he did a really great job with bringing out the vulnerability of Bruce in this
Yes.
moment of time, which is where you were mentioning about the unconventionality of a biopic like this, because most people might go in expecting it to be like, oh, you're going to see a lot of music, you're going to see
Right.
the peak of Bruce on stage and stuff. And it's like, yeah, there is that as well, kind of.
But
Yeah, but it's more about this, how he's trying to deal with things that are going on in his head, and just the frustration of not being able to figure out who he is in the middle of
right.
all of this. And I think he portrayed that really well too.
I could not agree more. I love Jeremy Allen White on The Bear. I loved him in The
Mhm.
Iron Claw. And I think he has really become exceptional at capturing these characters who are fixated on perfectionism and who are artists creating these really beautifully transcendent pieces, and whether it's music or food in the case of The Bear, of course. And but they're also these characters that struggle with deep pain and trauma, and I think he's so great at playing haunted characters, and he's also masterful at subtlety and restraint. And so I completely agree with you about the physicality, because right from the start, when he's like, he says he's like sweating, that he's like dripping everywhere, and he is, and you can see that, and his whole body and whole energy are into that. But then you also have such a quietly internal performance where he's really struggling with these memories and these emotions, and that he doesn't know what to do with, and he's got to get it out, and he's trying to write about it, but he doesn't even know what that's going to turn into. And so I love that he's harnessing both of these things, the very overt physicality and then the very internal expression too. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he's excellent. I think he's a great actor, and I think he's
Mhm.
great here. So
Mhm.
yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I feel for him though, because he's played so many characters at this point where it's like going through stuff. And I'm like,
Yes.
I was thinking about that. I mean, you mentioned Bear and Iron Claw, but also Shameless. It's like, if
Yes.
you,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, it's like lip has the time of it. It's like, yeah. Everybody on the show does, but it's like, I was just I actually, it hasn't been so long since I watched Shameless, but I was watching that and going, man, you're a little too good at this. Like,
I know, right? Like, what have you dealt with in your personal life?
yeah, like, I'm sorry for you, man. I really am.
I know, right? So how do you think the other performances are? Because I don't know about you, but I was really, really struck with Stephen Graham, who I always
Mhm,
love his work, but I think he's really incredible here in a small but very pivotal role as his father.
mhm,
But
mhm.
yeah, but I want to know what you think about the other performances.
Well, Stephen Graham has been impressing me so much over the years right now, and
Right?
yeah, he's been doing a great job. I mean, this year we just had Adolescence with him as well, and I thought he did, like, not only creating and writing the show, but in the performance, he did an incredible job with
Hmm.
that. And right now with this too, I think he was really great too. Again, he only has a few scenes in the movie in this one,
Right.
but they're scenes that are among the more emotionally impactful for me, particularly one bit in the later part of the movie, which really was quite effective. I won't talk much about that, but yeah, I thought he did a great job there. I thought Jeremy Strong was also really good as John Landau, who's his manager.
Hmm.
Because I really like that they didn't. I like how they portrayed like him as, like, going along with Bruce, even if he's not fully understanding it yet. It's like, look,
Hmm.
there's clearly something on his mind. Like, he can
Yep.
immediately tell. And even it's the moves that he's making that are unconventional, even for an artist. It's like, you've made
Right.
5 albums like this, and now you want to do number 6, which is like completely different. You're not doing what you've done before, but still trying to back him up on that. It's like, we believe in this. Like, just let him do his thing. So
Hmm.
I like how he did that. The one that surprised me though, and I have to recall if I've seen her in anything else, Odessa Young, who
Yep.
plays Faye, this girl who he ends up dating for a while. I thought she was great in the movie.
Hmm.
Some wonderful moments with her, but I can't remember what else I've seen her in. But I wanted to shout that out too.
Yeah, no, she was excellent in Shirley with Elizabeth Moss too. And
Yes.
then, yeah, there's another film that she was in, and I can't think of it. And it's a period piece. I want to say it's a
Mhm.
British film. That's not very helpful. Mothering Sunday, that's it. And she was
Okay.
really good in that too. Yeah, but she was
Mhm.
great here. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I almost didn't recognize her because she portrayed such a different character than any I've ever seen her portray. So yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with you that she's really great. I
Yeah.
also really I always like seeing Gabby Hoffman, and having
Mhm.
just seen her in Kelly Reichardt's The Mastermind. And
Mhm.
she has, again, a really small but great role in that too. I was excited to see her. And I always like to see Mark Maron. I really like Mark Maron. And it was nice to see him too, especially because that's
Mhm.
his podcast is how this film came
Mhm.
to be, with Warren Zanes being on there. So it was
Mhm.
I was at first I was like, what is he doing here? And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense when I was reading about the production of the film. So
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. I didn't know about that because I've heard some of his podcasts. I didn't know that's what inspired it, but also
mhm.
I didn't know he was in the movie because when I was
Yes.
watching it yesterday, I see someone in the recording booth at one point. I was like, that can't be him. Is it like maybe it's someone else? And then he started talking. I was like, oh my god, that's Mark Maron. Like
Yep.
that's like wow. No, I thought he did a really good job as well. It's great seeing him in here.
I know. I love seeing him. I know. I never
Yeah.
think of him as an actor, even though he's acted in many things. But I was
Hmm.
still like, I don't know. I still was. I also, coming off of having seen his documentary not that long ago,
Hmm.
I was like, oh, it's nice to see you.
Yeah, you did a
So
great job.
I agree. Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
first time I saw him in anything acting was Glow. I think on
Oh, yeah.
Netflix. Yeah,
Hmm.
which is I was like, oh, he's great. Well, he should be in more stuff. And then I saw him a few more times in like Joker and a few things, and I was like, oh, cool.
Hmm.
So it's nice to see him doing all this stuff too.
Yes, I know. I still need to see Glow. It's always
Mm.
raved about to me, and I like the cast a lot.
Hmm.
Especially Betty Gilpin. I love Betty Gilpin. She's great.
Hmm.
Um, so back to Springsteen. What did you think of Scott Cooper's direction and the writing? And what do you think of Scott Cooper as a filmmaker, kind of overall?
As a filmmaker overall, I actually sometimes some of his stuff I think is a little underrated. Actually, in my opinion.
Oh, talk about it, please.
Yes. So I am actually one of those people. So Crazy Heart's great. I mean, that's the one that is his most
Oh,
acclaimed.
I love Crazy Heart.
Yeah, I think he did a fantastic job there. Which actually a lot, some of that is sprinkled in here too.
Yes, yes.
And I thought that was a great film. But then I remember back in 2013, I watched Out of the Furnace, which
Hmm.
got very divided responses. But then I remember seeing it and going, "This is kind of great." Like I don't know why this is split, but I quite like what he did over there. I thought it was it's a very dark movie, but I thought it was really well done. Some great performances there too. Christian Bale in that movie and Woody Harrelson are amazing.
Hmm.
So I thought that was I thought that was good. Hostiles I really liked as well overall. Black Mass, which is about Whitey Bulger, which he did with Johnny Depp. I thought that was also pretty good. Like there's a lot of his movies that I've thought that overall have been fairly solid. Antlers, little mixed on that, especially
Hmm.
towards the end of the movie. But yeah, I think over here, what he does, like tying back to that unconventionality of the biopic again, I think he does do a pretty good job of you know I think capturing Bruce in this moment of time.
Yep.
Not perfectly, I think. Like I think when it comes to the writing, it's a little paradoxical, and because I thought the things that he's doing also sometimes worked against what else the movie could say.
I
Yeah,
agree. I would love to
yeah,
hear more about that because I agree with you.
yeah. I hope I'm not talking too much, by the way. But
No, no.
okay, but like for me, so for me, it's like I like how he captured some of those moments within Bruce's mind. It's
Hmm.
like especially
Hmm.
like the fact that there's this pain, there's this
Yes.
trauma that is built into it. But I think the frustration which Bruce has about communicating that or stuff that he's dealing with, I think it was also adversely affecting the story that was being told in the movie at times because it kind of kept the viewing also sort of at arm's length every now and then.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it made it feel a little slight at times. So I think because there were moments where I think it dug really deep into some aspects, and I wish, and like especially towards the later part of the movie, there's a couple of scenes where I thought, oh, this is really powerful. I wish there was a little bit more of that throughout the rest of the movie as well. So would have liked a little bit more there. But at least that was my take from it.
Sure.
And yeah. But I don't know. How about you?
I have an so let's talk about Scott Cooper for a sec. I
Yeah.
have a very mixed I'm mixed on his filmography.
Mhm.
I love Crazy Heart, love, and a huge part of that is Jeff Bridges. I think he is
Mhm.
just
Oh yeah.
ferocious in the role. He's incredible. He just
Mhm.
melts into that character. But something like The Pale Blue Eye, I couldn't
Mhm.
stand. So
Mhm.
I'm hot or cold on his films, but I think this is a solid film, a good film. However, with the writing, I think similar to you, I think there's so much here and there's so many good things, and I like when it delves deep and I like when it goes dark.
Mhm.
However, sometimes the dialogue for me was way too on the nose and way
Oh
too
yeah.
explicit. And I'm like,
Mhm.
trust your audience. You don't need to
Mhm.
spell every single thing out. It doesn't
Mhm.
need to be so obvious. And especially considering we're talking about a album, a point in time that's
Mhm.
very radical, that's very kind of experimental for an established artist. It's very idiosyncratic. It's very personal and raw. I kind of would have liked a film that mirrored that a little bit more
Yeah.
than kind of the obvious, very explicit dialogue. So for me, yeah, that was kind of the issue I was having. I was like, "Oh, this is good, but it
Mhm.
could have been amazing." It's
Mhm.
so close to being amazing, but it's got some issues. So,
Yeah, I do agree. In fact, there were a couple of times with Jeremy Strong in particular where I felt that
yes.
sort of like, yeah, where
Yes.
I think you know the scenes I'm talking about where it's like, not, I feel like I'm not spoiling much here, but like he has these couple of phone calls and then he's talking to his wife and he sort of he says out loud what it is,
Yes.
and I
Ugh.
yeah, and I thought like, yeah, no, I got it, man. Like I mean, like it's
Yeah, I think we all got it.
yeah, but it's like I think this is what he's going through. It's like yes, yes, he is. But there were a few moments like that where I think that's kind of I think that tied into what I was saying earlier as well. Is like I wish it went a little deeper because when I
Yeah.
wanted it to go deeper, they just said it, and it's like, well, you could have let you could have left that hanging. You could have left that
Right.
live in the moment for a second. Yeah.
Right. No, I completely agree. Also, kind of along those lines with Bruce as a character as opposed to Springsteen, the real person.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce's relationship with Faye, his romantic
Mm-hmm.
relationship, all of a sudden something goes awry, and it's something internal with Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm trying not to spoil it, but yeah, there's something internal with Bruce, but like then but as an audience member watching this, I'm like, oh, well, everything's okay, at least from her perspective. But no, but we don't see that. But then she
Mm-hmm.
explicitly says it, but not in a way like, I'm going to confront you. But it's just,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, it would have been great if we could have seen a scene or two showing it rather than being informed via her dialogue. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of happens later in their relationship. And I'm like, okay, we're getting a little bit more showing rather than telling here. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it's just some almost again, like I just feel not trusting the audience. Like we've got to really hammer this home and be explicit. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
We get what's
Yeah.
going on anyway. But yeah, so that is my big problem with the writing. But yeah, but it's interesting though that you said you felt is that what made you feel a distance with the film? Because I didn't have that experience, so I'm curious more about how you felt kind of distant.
I mean, not distant like all the whole way through. Like I said, I think there are moments where it really, when you're able to really just
Mm-hmm.
let a moment breathe. I guess. Like I think
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you brought it across a little bit better. I mean, just because of the dialogue giving it away, that kind of
Got
thing.
it. Yes. Yes.
So it's like I remember this a few times where my friends and I we watch this movie and be like, hey, there's always that moment where if you're when you're watching a movie and a character comes and tells you something and you go, oh, in case you're that one person who didn't figure it out, this is the this is the movie.
Yeah,
you
that's
know
for you.
yeah, like that, this is for you. So I remember we had this experience a couple of times. The one I'm remembering specifically was uh a ghost story, like it was years ago.
I love a ghost story.
Yeah, great movie, and
Yes.
I did great job. But then there's that scene in the middle of the movie where that party is happening, and that
Yes.
guy on the table is talking about time. And
Yes.
I was like, well, that's the, and he's like, oh, that's, and then you were like, oh, that's the point of the movie. So
Yeah.
if you didn't figure it out already, here's the theme of the movie. So like I love the movie, but I remember that one part being like, okay, I guess if you're that one person who was watching so far and was like, what's this about? It's like, there you go. That's what it's about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a scene that really did not need to be in that film. Could have been
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. So I was like, so there was a couple of moments in this also where I thought, oh, you could have this is going for something really okay, now you're saying it. So it's okay. So now it's pulling back. I'm like,
Yes.
So I feel like that way, that's how the distance really was there. It's like,
Totally makes sense.
yeah, like there's one silent long shot moment with Bruce in the later part of the movie where he's asked, how are you doing?
Mhm.
And I thought that was a really powerful moment. I said, there,
Yes.
you got me. I wanted a little more of that.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. I say this quite often, but I think it bears repeating. I
Mhm.
need films to exhibit more silence, more long takes,
Mhm.
more silence, get comfortable with it. So
Mhm.
I agree with you. And I think that's an excellent scene and a great visual manifestation of what he's going through internally too. So
Mhm. Yeah.
agreed. All right, so we're kind of talking about the look of the film too. So what did you think about the cinematography? And also, we haven't really talked about the music choices, so I'm curious about that too, kind of the other technical aspects of the film.
Well, I thought the cinematography was actually gorgeous. I was thinking about this while watching the movie. I was like, because I don't know, I forgot who did the cinematography for this movie, but
It's Masanobu Takayanagi.
okay. What I'm not don't know what else he's done, but I thought he did a really great job over here. And like some really wonderfully shot sequences, and especially the moments where you're really in that headspace with Bruce as you're seeing some stuff go down. Like I thought all the stuff at the studio, the studio when he's recording songs and the album, and then all stuff on stage. I thought those sequences were really well done as well. Yeah, some great moments over there, and that's my good solid cinematography. I'd say
I agree. So that DP has also worked with Scott Cooper on The Pale Blue Eye, as well as Black Mass, as well as Hostels, Out of the Furnace, as well as The Gray, Silver Linings Playbook, Swan Song. So a variety of films. But yeah, there are some really beautiful films in that filmography, but I really particularly responded to the visuals in this. There's something about them that felt very painterly to me in a way that cinematography in a film that does feel much more painterly didn't feel like. It kind of evoked paintings to me in its beauty, in its composition, but yet in a more subtle way, and also kind of felt like flipping through an old photo album or watching a home movie in a way, but without kind of the graininess of like, say, something like 16 millimeter or something. So yeah, but I thought it was really beautiful and I really loved it. And one of the shots I love, that's one of my favorites in the whole film, is actually the final shot. I think it's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love the visual scope of it, and I just love what it's kind of saying thematically. But anyway, yes, I agree with you. I love it. And I like the music choices too. I liked the songs that were chosen for the film, like not just the Bruce Springsteen songs, but other songs, like the songs he's listening to, or how he's flipping through the stations in the radio and the car. And I liked those too. I thought those were those are good as well.
Yeah, like I like the echo that they create. I mean, there's really just put that moment into that moment of time where it's like what other
Mm-hmm.
music was playing, but also just the stuff that he's watching, also like where he's finding inspirations, as
Yes.
well as like what else is in the world, and I think, and just trying to put you into that mindset as well, like what he's playing on the radio, some of the stuff that's playing at the he plays at this club, this pub, this well, not
Oh, the
club.
Stone
Yeah,
Pony.
the Stone Pony. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the bar a couple of times, and like he does that cover of Lucille, which I thought, yeah, that was, yeah, like I just, again, some nice moments over there where they captured the music scene
Yep.
as well, quite vividly. Um, and yeah, I thought they did a really good job with the music. I think him performing the music, I think just
Mm-hmm.
again the energy that he brought to it. Like I think he really nailed it. The voice, especially, like did a fairly good job getting younger Springsteen in there, like for the most part. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what do you? So let's talk. We've been kind of talking about the deeper issues that Bruce is dealing with this in this film, and whether or not the film, we've kind of been talking about, does it do it effectively, but I kind of want to dig more into it, specifically like the film's depiction of depression, because it's hinted out throughout the film, but then it kind of comes more to a head later in the film. And I'm curious what your thoughts are and how the film depicts depression and mental health and trauma
Mhm.
and all of that.
I mean, it can be tough. I mean, I've met, well, not just met. I mean, in my own family, there have been cases where I've had to, well, he- be there for people when things were down. That's like keeping it vague when it comes to, like, who those people were, but like it was very similar in
Mm-hmm.
that there would be these days where it's like, you can try to talk through what's happening, but you don't quite know how to verbalize that, and sometimes there'd
Yeah.
be a moment of like of anxiety, or a panic attack or something, which is something that does happen in the movie
Yes.
also. And it was very similar to that feeling of, like, like instability all of a sudden, like
Mm-hmm.
um and I thought they did a not too bad a job when it came to some of that. And just the fact that sometimes you're constantly living in memories, like going
Yes.
back to certain moments over and over again, especially if they're moments that cause great pain to you. We keep going back to this one specific night a few times with his dad, for example, where
Mm-hmm.
things really escalated quite a bit.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, this is obvious. The way that that's captured, and sort of living in that memory for as long as you are, it can take a toll on you. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought they captured that quite powerfully as well, that particular aspect of it.
I completely agree with you. I am someone who suffers from depression and PTSD, and so I am always intrigued by depictions of it on screen, and I think it gets it pretty right, for
Hmm.
all the reasons that you said.
Hmm.
And this film really feels like a tender wound to me, and like there's
Hmm.
such a pain imbued and woven throughout the film, and in Bruce as a character in this film, in the music that he's creating, of course. And yeah, I really found it really poignant and really potent. Also, there's talk in the film, and you really get to witness it throughout, where Bruce is talking to John, and he says, I think John says to him, like, is the quiet too loud? And he says,
Hmm.
yes, the quiet is too loud. And that's the thing, is like when he's going touring, he doesn't have to stop and think about all those ghosts and all those demons and all that past
Hmm.
pain and trauma and all of his mental health issues. He can just focus on other things. But
Hmm.
when you stop, that's when it can get really dangerous, and from an emotional perspective as well as possibly from a physical one. But because then you're confronted with all of those things, and all of those things are there, and
Hmm.
especially him going back home and revisiting all the places he's been and the old bar and seeing his old house, and kind of all of that can conjure up all of those
Mhm.
horrible memories as well as positive memories too, and how those all kind of get commingled. So I do think this does a really good job at tackling that. So yeah, I agree with you. But I do have kind of have kind of conflicted feelings on its depiction of fractured father son parent child
Mhm.
relationships. So what did you think about that depiction of Bruce and his father?
I mean, I think, like I said, I will say that there were a couple of moments with him and Stephen Graham, like young
Hmm.
Bruce and even older Bruce, which I thought those moments were like it's great acting between the two of them, and
Yep.
I like some stuff. I think there were some moments that they mentioned in passing,
Hmm.
which I thought to myself that there were deeper things over there that I feel like they didn't quite go into,
Hmm.
especially when it came to that sense of that fractured relationship. Like there's at one point they kind of also try to go into what his dad was going through,
Yes. Yes.
and I remember for that line. There's a line where it's like you're dealing with your own thing. It's like, well, we never really got to see that. I don't really. I mean, what exactly is going on over there? But so there were moments where I feel like I like the full picture, if you
Hmm.
will, like
Yep.
I feel was a little incomplete. I'm trying to think like I mean, you definitely got the sense that obviously this is something that had really, that's something that really affected Bruce for
Yes.
many years, and you can kind of see why his relationship with Faye later on, like why he's sometimes thinking about it in the sense like, I'm afraid I don't want this to happen, and
Right. Right.
he can't really say it out loud, but it's like he's thinking about it, you
Hmm.
know. But yeah, I think there were a few moments where they could have probably given somewhat a little bit more to really land that a bit more.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I get the sense that they're alluding to his father having some kind of dementia or
Ah, yeah, later on, yeah.
something along those lines, since his father is he's moved his family's moved to California, and his
Mhm,
father
mhm,
doesn't know where he is, and his
mhm,
mom can't find him. And there's another conversation that they have that kind of sort of hints at that there's some kind of memory issue going
mhm,
on. But you're right, it is never explicit. And I think, which
mhm,
is kind of interesting, because what the film chooses to be explicit about and what it chooses to be oblique about is kind of interesting to me. Like, why would
mhm,
you be explicit about this but not this? So,
mhm,
and I don't even think of that from a critical standpoint. I'm just
mhm,
kind of like, huh, that's curious. I'm
mhm,
curious. But
mhm,
yeah, I the the big thing for me was that
mhm.
it just there's something about their reconciliation that felt very Hollywood and very
Yeah, yeah.
very nice, but didn't fully feel earned,
Mhm,
and felt, I don't know, there was something about it that didn't. And maybe I am responding to what you were saying, where it doesn't go deep enough in certain places. Like, maybe if it had gone deeper, I would have felt more like, oh, this makes sense, or oh, this is
mhm.
a but it almost felt like we got there a little too quickly,
Yeah.
strangely, even though he'd gone through all this pain, and clearly Bruce
Mhm,
had been going through therapy, so he's obviously been dealing with a lot of his issues. But yeah, I don't know. And also, I'm of the mindset you don't need to necessarily forgive someone in a conventional sense in order to love them or move on. And so I don't know. It just, if that particular scene felt very Hollywood to me. Like, well, we
mhm,
need to put a pretty bow on this, make it all nice and tidy, even
mhm,
though, again, that feels so contradictory to the album he's creating, where there's so
mhm,
much raw vulnerability and pain in this. Um,
mhm.
but Hollywood likes a happy ending, so
Yeah, yeah. I think the idea that they were trying to go for was, like a sort of, a processing thing where it was like, all right,
yes.
now let's like the best way to move forward now is to just let it go.
Mhm.
Brought that out in the album. You brought that out in
That's
your
true.
own.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what they're going for. But again, it's like I just wish we had some more time to really let that breathe a bit more
Yes.
and to really
Agreed.
like land some of that more. I thought there was one moment that did actually the most I guess the most affecting moment when it came to
Mhm.
his dad. I mean, since we're talking a little bit more about scenes, it's like there's a one point where he finds his dad when older. He finds his dad
Mhm.
in a bar, and he's gonna like cover. Yeah, and he's gonna like cover the tab, and he's like, no, it's he's a nice man, it's on me. And there's this one, and he says one line. He says one
Yep.
line, which really got. He's like, "Am I?" And yeah,
That destroyed me. I was like,
I was like that.
"Oh God."
Yeah, that was the most powerful moment of the movie, in a way for
Yes.
me. I was like, "Am I?" And he doesn't respond. Bruce doesn't
Mm-mm.
respond to it,
Nope.
and that was one of the more effective moments of the movie for me. I thought that you nailed that because
Yes.
um, without getting into it too much, there's been a one of those moments
Mhm.
in a personal setting with someone, and it was a very similar thing where it was like looking at a moment and going, what was was all of it still great? And it's like it's a tough one to answer, man. I mean, yeah.
Right.
I'm
I
giving
know.
I'm giving a very vague version of that story because I'm trying to protect the
Of
privacy of people,
course.
and
Of course.
but yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And I completely agree with you. That scene is gutting. And I
Mhm.
love, and credit to Scott Cooper and the rest of the team that I love that he doesn't respond. He doesn't. He just lets it
Mhm.
hang. And because it's like, what do you do? Do you lie? Do you
Mhm.
tell the truth? Like, you want to kick him when he's down, like, so no,
Mhm.
I love that. I think it's such a brutally honest, vulnerable moment, and I love that. And I don't know, maybe I wish there had been a little bit more of that, but no, that scene is perfect. It's
Mhm.
perfect. It's great, so great.
Mhm.
um yeah, so something you were saying throughout kind of this part of the conversation made me think about this, because Bruce is writing through his pain, and he is clearly processing something. What do you think about the film's depiction of songwriting
Mhm.
and writing in general? Because so many films try to capture writing, and some do it successfully and some don't. But yeah, I'm curious what you think about it.
Well, sometimes it comes from all kinds of places. Like, I mean, an inspiration, something that you see that parallels, a feeling that you have. Like early on in the movie, he's watching something on TV. He's watching Badlands on TV,
Yeah.
and it's the story around that was it was a man angry at the world, and
Mhm.
someone who just he was just upset with everything.
Mhm.
So putting that into a song, like I mean, the movie doesn't do a very subtle job of like telling you that part, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I think that's a really good way of like putting it, because he can't if you can't articulate it, something else you're seeing is like, that's kind of how I feel. I'm gonna put that into try and make a song around that. So
Right.
even if it's a song about a certain story, it's like, well, there's echoes of it, which is like, it sounds like it's like something that I'm feeling. It's like,
Mhm.
like I'm upset at everything, but I feel like I can't really say it out loud. I have to bring that out in some way creatively. And I mean, that happens a lot with art in general. Like, there's something I was thinking about, this conversation I once had about comedians.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, people who make who are in the comedy, like they seem like the funnest people in the world. There's always so much laughs to be had, and it's like, and I said, I remember the conversation was like, listen to the jokes every now and then, and think about the ones that you're laughing at the most.
Yeah.
Do those seem like happy stories to you?
No.
Yeah, because you're not laughing at the ones which are funny. You're laughing at the ones which are crazy, angry, sad, upsetting. Those are the
Yep.
jokes and stories that are getting you, even in stand-up specials, not the ones that are actually funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's born out of a lot of tragedy. So
Hmm.
that's something that I think the movie did a pretty decent job with. Like I said, not always subtle. Like he
Yeah.
looks like I think someone made the joke. It's like, oh, he looks at a mansion and he writes mansion. Like, I was like, oh, okay,
Oh, oops.
yeah, why not? Why not?
Sure.
But yeah, I didn't think that was too badly done.
Yeah. Also, he likes to underline things. I noticed, and one of the
Oh
things he's
yeah,
like underlining, it's like toot, toot, toot. And I'm like, okay, I think we get it.
yeah.
But yeah. But aside from those kind of, obvious things, I agree with you. I do think the way it depicts writing is pretty good. It's like I said, it's hard to sometimes depict it because it can look boring. Like it's not boring when you're doing it. It's a lot of struggle. There's a lot happening and going on, but watching it from the outside can be very tedious. And it's such an internal contemplative thing, especially this particular album because he was writing it by himself. And I do think it does it well. I think it showcases the difficulties of creativity and of writing and really the emotional toll and the energy that it takes and how consuming it can be when you're creating art. But what I think the film really excels at is how it showcases how Bruce wants to preserve this album. Like he doesn't want anybody touching it. He doesn't want any of the echoes changed. He doesn't want the backing band. He doesn't want anything. He wants it directly from the recordings that he did in that house just transferred. And I think his preservation and his commitment to preserving it is really compelling to see in that artistry.
Yeah, that's something I really like because he mentioned it multiple times. It's like it sounds unfinished. It's like I want it to sound unfinished.
Yes.
Because it has these imperfections and you're trying to find that specific sound where there's an echo, there's the scratchiness to it, and I think the way that they showcased that, was yeah, I really like how they went about that because that's really the raw emotion. It's like that's how I'm feeling. If you put a cleaned out version of it, that's you're missing the sound, you're missing the thing, the foreground that really makes it what it is.
Yes. Yeah. This isn't polished. The whole point is it is raw. It is unvarnished, and that's what you want here. Yeah, I completely agree. All right. Do you have anything else we should talk about this film? Any other thoughts? Anything else?
Any other thoughts? Well, it's so I think about a lot of the positives and things surrounding this movie, and even if some things didn't work, so much of it is riding on what you're seeing from these actors. It's really an acting it's that kind of movie,
Yeah.
And I really have to give credit to the fact that there's so much that was still able to come through. Like even if there were sometimes where it did fall short of it for me, whenever it did manage to really hone in on what makes Bruce who he is, whether it's whether it's him, Jeremy Allen White himself, or the people around him, how they're, how they're talking about things and how they're eventually bringing it together. I think they did a really in some ways some really good work over there, and to just bring forward that that moment in time with him as well as they do. Imperfectly, yes, almost to the point. It's like it's
actually, yeah, that is a great point.
yeah, almost like it's supposed to be that way. It's like it's not perfect.
Who knows?
Because yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's when I was reading about the production of this and how Jeremy Allen White trained for 5 months on guitar and singing so he could get it right. And I don't want to say that doesn't matter because I always think those kinds of preparations matter, but I think he really exhibits something intangible here that I think is really powerful, and I think that's what really works. So I agree with you. I think the acting is incredible, and yes, there are flaws here, and I kind of like what you're saying. That maybe almost intentionally so in a way. But even when there are flaws, I still really enjoyed this. I still thought it was incredibly captivating and moving. And so, yeah, I
Mhm.
I liked this window
Mhm.
into an artist, and because I always find the crafting of it so fascinating. And yeah, so
Mhm.
I think there's a lot here about art and about pain, and about humanity. A lot that this film is saying. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you. I liked it too.
Yeah.
Yay! All right. Well, if you agree or disagree, be sure to leave us a comment and reach out to us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. You can also email us at insessionfilm@gmail.com, and be sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and or YouTube. And stay tuned because Brendan and JD will be back for In Session's next podcast. And be sure to listen to their reviews of After the Hunt and It Was Just an Accident, as well as the latest episode on their top 5 hangout movies. So definitely check that out. I'm Megan Kearns. You can find me at Opinion S World on Blue Sky and Twitter, and The Opinion S on Instagram and Letterboxd. And Shaurya, where can people find you? Tell us.
So, so I'm primarily on YouTube, my own channel. It's called Shaurya Chavla as well. You can come over there and check out some reviews. You can check out some videos. I talk about movies, shows, video games, even. So we got
Oh,
a
yay!
yeah, we got a Ghost of Yote thing coming soon. I've just been
Ooh.
playing and finishing that up. And so you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram under my name. It's a very simple handle. I try not to complicate it. And yeah, at Shaurya Chavla, there I am. Come and follow me. We'll talk about some stuff, get to know each other, and yeah,
I like that. I like that you're like having a conversation with people. That's cool. I like that.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what it's all
Some,
about.
yeah, some conversations are better than others, but
Some are. That is so true.
yeah.
Well, thank you for this conversation. And thanks so much for listening to the In Session Film Podcast.